was a tzaddik, his name was Rav Levi Yitzchak of Beredichev, who was noted for his enthusiasm. Everything he did with enthusiasm, so much so, there was one time that he was at a Seder meal, and he got so enthusiastic about the concept of Yetzias Mitzrayim, the Exodus, he jumped on the table and destroyed all the dishes and knocked everything off. They'd have to start the whole Seder over again. And so, this enthusiastic tzaddik, which everything he did with all of his heart and became a legend for it, suddenly, for a period of a year and a half, maybe 2 years, lost his feelings altogether and had no enthusiasm at all. And he prayed like an ordinary Jew from a siddur, from a prayer book, and people had no understanding as to what happened. He had a crash. And this is quite common among even the highest people. People go from level to level, and all of a sudden, everything stops. So now with a tzaddik, with a holy person, there's one set of rules. With an ordinary person like ourselves, there's another set of rules. And the question is, why does it happen? And one who reads this chapter would say this is very negative. You're calling the person a behemoth, an animal, and worse than a behemoth, worse than a worm, and having the person recall all of his sins. Why would you have to recall all of your sins because you're not enthusiastic in davening, in prayer? The answer is, a person has to be happy and positive, but a person has got to be realistic. What exactly are we looking for? We're looking for a spiritual existence, a holy existence. The person is fooling and deluding oneself to believe that he exists in a spiritual existence. Why? A person is well fed, so he has creature comforts. He's well clothed. The house is warm. His bills are paid. This person is like an animal who's taken care of. It just so happens that this animal is so happy that he's being taken care of that the animal functions properly and studies. But that does not make holiness. Holiness is devotion to God. Holiness is the transformation of negativity, of evil, of physicality into the godly. And so the person has got to be realistic. He's got to know where he's holding. Now, as long as the person is growing spiritually, you don't have to stop and do the analysis. You can do it once in a while and think about what happened a long time ago, once in a while, once a week, once a month, once a year. But when there is no sensitivity, when the person is dead, we got to jumpstart the engine. There you have to be realistic. What are we trying to do? Supposing you put water in your engine, and the mechanic says the gasoline you've been putting in had 10% water, and that's caused things to gum up and not work because water in your engine doesn't start. Is that negative? The answer is no. You're telling the person as it is. You also have to tell the person how to get rid of it, how to change it. You also have to tell the person what exactly is going to happen and how the person can expect things to change if he does X, Y, and Z. But you have to be realistic. You have to diagnose the problem, and then you have to do something about it. Just wanting to be happy won't start your engine. In the same way, just wanting to pray with enthusiasm won't make you enthusiastic. They used to say that there were people who wanted to be enthusiastic, so they would they'd patch with their hands, and they would give themselves a little pinch on the cheek and say that they were enthusiastic. That doesn't work. And so here we are, we're trying to analyze something. Why is the person without any spiritual feeling? The answer is because the person's an animal. And because the person's an animal, that's what a person is. A person is a physical body. He eats and drinks and sleeps and does things just like an animal. What's the difference? The answer is because the cow eats straw and he eats dessert. But in terms of what the person is like, what the person enjoys, just like the cow, just like the horse. He eats and drinks and sleeps just like them. There's no difference. Because the person fills it with some content does not make the person less of an animal. And the animal blocks out godly feelings. So now he goes back into the situation. He goes ahead and he's analyzed so far that there are several layers. Number one, the person is an animal. He's got physical desires and he's become trained physically. Number two, he's worse than the animal. He's worse than the worm because it's possible for him to want something that's against God's will. The animal doesn't want something against God's will. Number three, the person has done things in the past that has caused the blockage of his godly soul, of godliness from him. So now, the worst of the offenses is what is called chatis neurim. People who have had, men who have had seminal discharges as a result of fantasies, and that this causes a release. And people think that this is, what can you do? This is unintentional. But those are called the sins of youth, the faults of youth, and that has an effect upon the person's soul. So that blocks out a good part of the functioning of his soul. So now he's going to address those people who were holy people who never had those problems. It says, "V'gam misha hu noki mechates nurim," even those who are clean from the sins of youth, yosim beliboy, he should pay attention. He should fill the statement of the Zohar that a person has to make an accounting. That's why Jews are good accountants, because spiritually we make an accounting. The Hainu, that means Laseis Cheshbenim Nafshi, he should make an accounting with himself. Mikol Amachshovis Vadiburim Vamaisim Shecholfu Vavram Yemiyesara Yemazeh. He should make an accounting from all of the thoughts and words and actions that he did from the time he was a child until today. If they were all from the side of holiness or from the side of impurity. The Hainu, that means Kol Amachshovis Vadiburim Vamaisim, all of the thoughts and words and actions which are not for God, for his will and for his service. This is the meaning of the word sitra achra, other side, canal, as mentioned before in chapter 6. It is well known whenever a person thinks holy thoughts, he becomes a divine chariot to the holy palaces, from which flows the energy for these thoughts. So the person is a chariot, a vehicle, a vessel for holiness, from which these thoughts flow. And therefore, because the person is a vessel for them, he receives them and works well with them. And the same thing is true the opposite. He becomes an unholy chariot, at this moment, to the palaces of impurity. From which flow all bad thoughts, and similarly, for actions and deeds